HarperCollins presents The World's Worst Monsters, written and read by David Walliams, with the talents of
Harriet Carmichael, Sophia Eleni,
James Good,
Poi Fan Lee,
Paul Panting,
Carlise Peer, and Tanya Rodriguez.
with music by Michael Bennett. Welcome to the world of monsters. Vampire. Like a bat, the vampire only comes out at night, can fly, and has sharp fangs. Ghost. A ghost is a spirit of the dead. It loves nothing more than spooking the living. Gorgon. This monster has snakes for hair. One look at her is enough to turn you to stone. Zombie. A zombie is a dead body that has come to life. If you are bitten by a zombie, you become a zombie too. Werewolf. A werewolf transforms from human to wolf whenever there is a full moon. Frankenstein's monster. The evil Dr. Frankenstein created this monster from body parts he robbed from the graveyard. Mummy. An ancient Egyptian mummified pharaoh that comes to life when their tomb is disturbed. Abominable snowman. This rarely spotted ape-like creature lives in the snow-topped Himalayan mountains. Creature from the deep, half man and half fish, but all monster. Loch Ness Monster. The greatest of all the monsters, this dragon-like creature has been spotted in the Scottish lake. Now let's meet the world's worst monsters. Bat Baby. In a land far, far away, where it was forever cold, stood a snow-capped mountain. At the top of that mountain, poking out of the clouds, was a Gothic castle. It looked like something from a fairy tale, but the story I'm going to tell you is no fairy tale. No, this is a horror story. Inside that castle lived a flame-haired girl named Amber. Amber didn't fit with her dark surroundings. She was a girl who loved to smile, sing, and skip. The sad thing was, she had no one to play with. That was until one stormy night, when her baby brother arrived. Amber couldn't have been more delighted. She liked nothing more than visiting her little brother in his nursery. She would tiptoe in just to watch him sleep. One strange thing was that he slept all day and only woke up at night. Another strange thing was his name, Alucard. Have you got a brother or sister named Alucard? If you have, you win a pound. One night, Amber reached into Alucard's cot to stroke his hair as he snored away peacefully. The baby's red eyes opened wide, and he hissed. His teeth must have come through, as Alucard revealed a set of needle-sharp fangs. Cried Amber. She was so startled, she dashed out of the nursery and slammed the door behind her.
Is my baby brother some kind of monster?
She asked herself. Before she could answer her own question, she heard a shout from downstairs.
Dinner time!
It was her mother calling. Her heart still racing, Amber skipped down the stone staircase. She entered the impossibly long dining room and asked her parents,
What are we having? having? I bet you're eating beetroot soup again.
Of course.
replied her mother and father, smiling. They made a striking pair, with their pale skin, red eyes, and hair as dark as the night. The couple, too, were forever adorned in black velvet and scarlet silk. Father's particular affectation was a long cape in which he twirled around the castle like a magician performing a trick.
You have beetroot soup for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Don't you ever get bored of it?
No, we adore it.
Replied Mother.
I've made bangers and mash for you.
Yummy!
Exclaimed Amber, sitting at the other end of the impossibly long wooden table. She tucked into her first banger before addressing her parents.
I just popped into the nursery to check on Alucard.
The grown-up shared a look.
Yes?
Said Father.
Well, the strangest thing happened.
Don't let your mash get cold.
Replied Mother, slurping some beetroot soup.
I went to give him a stroke, and
So how is that new book you're reading?
Asked Father, changing the subject.
fine! You are not listening to me!
Oh, we are, dear. Now eat your mash.
No! I must tell you something! Alucard has grown fangs!
The grown-ups looked at each other before bursting into theatrical laughter.
I think it's time for bed, young lady.
You must be tired. Your mind is playing tricks on you.
No!
Replied Amber firmly.
My mind is not playing tricks on me, but sometimes I think you are.
Whatever do you mean?
Demanded Father.
Being in this family is weird!
Weird? Weird?
Spluttered Mother, tears blooming in her eyes.
Why do you always dress in black and red? Why do you never, ever go out in daylight? Why do you have beetroot soup for every meal? If it even is beetroot soup. Let me taste it.
With that, she rose from her chair and darted to the other end of the table. Before Mother could drink the last drop, Amber dipped her finger into the soup.
How dare you!
Thundered Father.
Go to bed this instant!
He stood up from his chair and pointed upstairs like a father from a distant century. Amber was shocked by how angry her father was. She had never seen him like this. Without a word, she walked out of the dining room, slamming the door shut behind her. Instead of stomping up the stone staircase in a huff, Amber lingered by the door and put her ear to the keyhole.
Darling, one day we need to tell her the truth.
Never.
Then Amber heard footsteps approach the door and hurled herself up the staircase. When she reached her room, she looked down at her fingertip. It was still scarlet from the soup. She put it to her nose and sniffed it. It didn't smell anything like beetroot. Her hand shaking with fear, she placed it to her lips and tasted it. It didn't taste anything like beetroot either. More like rusty old pennies. To take the taste away, she quickly cleaned her teeth. Then she put on her pajamas and leapt into bed. Lastly, she pulled the covers right up over her head. Sleep was impossible, though. Her mind was racing. A million thoughts were pulsing through her brain at the speed of lightning.
Why am I forbidden from entering my parents' bedroom? Why are the curtains always drawn in the house so not a chink of daylight can make it through? What really is in that beetroot soup? Why does my baby brother have fangs? Why does he have such a peculiar name?
Amber was determined to do some detective work, so she slid out of bed and tiptoed from her bedroom. Her first thought was to check in on Alucard. However, after sneaking into the nursery and peering into his cot, she realized he wasn't there.
Babies don't just disappear in the middle of the night.
Muttered Amber to herself.
This is getting weirder and weirder.
Determined to find her little brother, Her first stop was her parents' bedroom. A sharp turn on the doorknob confirmed what she had always suspected. The door was locked. Amber was forbidden from entering and had never ever seen inside. So she ventured down the sweeping staircase. After peering into several empty rooms, she heard a noise coming from the ballroom. Putting her eye to the keyhole, she was met with the most astonishing sight. Her baby brother was flying around the room. It was like watching an owlet taking its first flight. The baby was bumping into things. The chandelier, the grandfather clock, an oil painting, the suit of armor, the fireplace, the sideboard, and the wall. The tiny tot then slid down the wall and landed on the floor with a thud.
No, no, no!
Thundered his father.
Son, you are not looking where you are going.
Oh, don't be too hard on him, dear,
said Mother, scooping the baby up in her arms.
Let me show you, Alucard.
With that, his feet lifted off the ground, and without even so much as flapping his arms, he was flying. Father was an elegant man, and his flying did not disappoint. He soared to the ceiling, performed a loop round the chandelier, and landed back on the floor without so much as a sound.
Take our hands, Alucard.
This is your destiny.
The baby reached out his hands. When they were firmly gripped by his parents, the three took off. Mother was an expert flyer too. They glided up to the top of the room. With his free hand, Father peeled back the crimson velvet curtain and opened the window.
Alucard,
He announced.
all of this will be yours for all eternity. Come with us. Let us show you our empire of darkness.
And the three flew out of the window and up into the inky black sky. Amber opened the door and dashed into the room. From the window, she watched the three black dots disappear into the clouds.
I was right!
She proclaimed.
My family is weird.
A part of her wanted to chase after them. She rocked on her heels in the hope that she might be able to soar off into the night too. But she had no such luck. Amber couldn't fly. Not even when she flapped her arms.
Not fair!
She said, stamping her foot on the floor. With the house empty, Amber set about uncovering the truth about her weird family. She bolted up the stairs to her parents' bedroom. She thumped her shoulder into the door, determined to break in. She tried again. One last time, harder than ever. The door still wouldn't budge. But something fell off the top of the door frame and landed on the floor with a clink. Bending down, Amber realized this was the find of the century. A key. Not just any key. The key to her parents' bedroom, of course. She turned the handle and the door creaked open. The room was dim, and instantly Amber felt a chill trickle down her spine. Stepping into the gloom, she saw something that shocked her to her core. Instead of a bed in the center of the room, there were two coffins. Father and Mother slept in coffins. It could only mean one thing. They were vampires. No wonder they could fly. That wasn't beetroot soup they were drinking. It was blood. The baby was a vampire too. But why wasn't Amber? Alucard's name had always puzzled her. She found a leather-bound book on the shelf and an old-fashioned quill on the desk. She scribbled the letters of her brother's name on a blank page and then played around with the letters. Alucard, Kraluda, Dudar, Kaladu. Then it hit her like a slap in the face. Alucard backwards spelled Dracula. Her parents had named their baby after the Prince of Darkness himself, the most famous vampire the world had ever known.
I have to get out of here, and fast,
said Amber. She caught a glimpse of her reflection in the mirror. At the same time, she could sense someone or something behind her. But that was impossible. She turned and saw that her family was standing right behind her.
Ah!
She screamed.
And what are you doing in here?
Purred Father.
It is forbidden,
Added Mother.
Goo-goo.
Gurgled the baby. Amber turned back to the mirror. They were nowhere to be seen. For a moment, she wondered whether her mind was playing tricks on her. She looked back to the mirror to see that they were not visible in the reflection. Another sign, if any were needed, that she belonged to a family of monsters.
You are all vampires!
You finally worked it out.
Why didn't you tell me?
We didn't want you to worry.
Worry? That's an understatement. I am terrified. But I have one question.
Yes, child?
Why aren't I a vampire too?
Father and Mother shared a look,
Because you aren't our real child.
replied Mother softly.
So you aren't my actual parents?
No.
I knew it!
We found you when you were a newborn baby, no more than a day old, floating down the river in a basket.
I had been abandoned?
Yes.
By whom?
Father and Mother shared another look.
Tell me the truth!
We suspect it might be a family who live up the river.
Take me to them, now!
Darling, I don't think that is a good idea.
I said now!
We always feared this day would come.
Come along, then.
Said Father, taking Amber's hand. They walked over to the bedroom window, and he opened it.
Let's take you home as a family.
Added Mother, picking up baby Alucard and placing him under her arm.
Thank you.
Said Amber. She was lifted off the floor, and soon they were all zooming into the sky. It was thrilling being up there closer to the stars, and a little part of her yearned to have vampire powers too.
Wow!
They swooped over the snow-sprinkled mountains until they spotted a little cottage deep in a valley, right next to the river. Landing just outside the front door, Amber didn't want to let go of the vampire's hands.
That was the most magical moment of my life.
She said.
Thank you for caring for me all these years, and thank you for bringing me back here in one piece.
The least we could do,
said Father. Mother looked lost for words. She hugged the girl tight, tears budding in her eyes.
I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to miss you too. All of you.
With that, she brought Father and her baby brother into the embrace. The cuddle went on for an age, because no one wanted to break it. Eventually, Amber pulled away.
I guess this is goodbye.
I guess it is.
Goodbye,
added Father, tears in his eyes now too.
Goo goo gaga,
added the baby. Amber stepped forward and knocked on the door of the cottage. She looked back to where the vampires had been standing, but they were gone. All that remained were their footsteps in the snow. As the old wooden door creaked open, Amber smiled nervously.
Hello!
She chirped.
I am your long-lost daughter, Amber.
The door opened fully, and some figures stepped out of the gloom. It was a family of ogres. screamed Amber.
Look! It must be that baby we abandoned,
growled one.
Ginger hair?
Agreed the other.
She doesn't fit in here,
said a little one.
Let's eat her,
said another. Amber spun round and tried to run away. Behind her, she could hear the stomps of the ogre's enormous feet. The snow was waist-deep in parts, and Amber stumbled, falling face first into it.
Help!
She cried, just as the ogres reached out their giant hands to snatch her. Amber felt herself being lifted off the ground. It was Mother and Father and her baby brother.
You're safe.
We've got you.
Don't ever let me go.
We never will.
Agreed Alucard. The family soared off into the night sky, together once more, heading for home. The Ghost of Nightmare Park. Have you ever woken up after 500 years to discover you are a ghost and that your home has been turned into a theme park? No? I thought not. Well, that is exactly what happened to Lord Phantom. He had died 500 years earlier when his head was detached from his body with an axe. That normally does the trick. He had displeased the king by serving up cold tomato soup at a royal banquet. The king did what any self-respecting monarch would do. He had him beheaded.
But the soup's meant to be cold, Your Majesty. It's called gazpacho,
Were the Lord's last words as the axeman brought his blade down hard on the man's neck. The Lord and his head were buried together in an unmarked grave in some woodland. Such was the shame his cold soup had brought on him, his family, and the country at large. Soon Phantom Manor became deserted, and the house and gardens fell into disrepair. One day, hundreds of years later, the country house was bought by an American billionaire. His name was Buzz Busby. He was a little old man with a tan so orange it would make a Satsuma blush. Busby's teeth were sparkling white, and what hair he had left was dyed so black it was almost blue. It created quite a contrast with his face, which resembled a dried apricot. Busby had made his billions building theme parks all over America. This was his first one in Great Britain. Busby named it Dream Park. Then he had the most marvellous idea. The crumbling old house itself would become the site of the park's roller coaster. It would be called Ruin Coaster. No one had ever done this before. The roller coaster track would twist and turn through the old ruins' huge double doors, into the halls, down into the cellar, around the rooms, and out of the windows. It would be thrilling to speed through a spooky old country house. The dust, the cobwebs, the broken chandeliers dangling from the ceilings would all add to the atmosphere. The builders arrived in their truckloads and set to work. After months of drilling and banging, it was finally finished. The instant it opened, Ruin Coaster became the most famous roller coaster in the world. It was so popular that people from all over the country queued day and night to get on it, even though the ride was over in a few seconds. Buzz Busby wasn't a billionaire for nothing. He soon realized he had to build another roller coaster, bigger and better than Ruin Coaster, to cope with the incredible demand. The problem was there wasn't a square foot of land he hadn't built on already to create a ride, a restaurant, or a merchandise shop. Busby hated being a mere billionaire and longed to be a trillionaire. The only part of Phantom Manor that he had not developed was the woods at the end of the garden. So, one crisp morning, Busby sent an army of diggers to clear the trees. An impossibly tall roller coaster that reached the edge of the Earth's atmosphere, Sky Coaster, was to be built there.
I want those woods completely concreted by noon,
he barked. Trees were chopped down. Hedgerows were cleared, and the ground was dug up. Of course, if you have been paying attention, you will remember that under the ground was a 500-year-old nobleman and his 500-year-old head. The diggers cleared the earth above him. The noise woke Lord Phantom up from his eternal sleep. Now he was a ghost.
I say,
began his head, which was cradled under his arm, as he sat up in his grave.
What in the name of goodness are you and your mechanical beasts doing to my woodland?
Like all ghosts, Lord Phantom glowed silver and was see-through. The construction workers were terrified at the sight. They cried. Such was the commotion the ghost caused that their diggers crashed into trees and each other. The construction workers fled the woods, screaming all the way. Now, the last thing that the ghost of Lord Phantom remembered was making his final, impassioned speech about the cold tomato soup. The next thing he knew, everything had fallen silent and dark. So he had no idea that hundreds of years had passed, and that his precious country house had been turned into a theme park. He didn't even know what a theme park was. A great day out for the family 500 years ago was going to the town square to watch someone being beheaded, something that Lord Phantom and his family had enjoyed immensely, until it was his head being chopped off. That was not so much fun. So you can imagine the ghost of Lord Phantom's shock when he stumbled out of the woodland to see his perfectly kept garden was now a thick jungle of rides and amusements. The noise, the lights, the people, muttered the ghost to himself.
The place is packed with peasants.
Of course, the biggest shock came when he entered his precious country house.
What sorcery is this?
He spluttered, spying the roller coaster track. At first, all was quiet. Then he heard a rumbling, and he spotted a chain of carriages holding 100 people do a loop-the-loop through his ballroom. Before zooming out of the window, the ghost was swept off his feet. He dropped his head.
Ouch!
It rolled across the ballroom.
Pick me up, you fool!
The head shouted to the body.
I'm covered in dust! Achoo!
The blind body stumbled forward and accidentally kicked it.
Ouch!
It was as if he were playing football with his own head, which is not advised. The head came to a halt in the centre of the ballroom.
Over here!
He cried.
Achoo! And don't boot me this time, you nincompoop!
Just as the body bent over and picked up the head,
at last!
The front of the roller coaster carriage scooped him off the floor. The ghost looped the loop as 100 riders screamed behind him. As the roller coaster came to an abrupt halt, Lord Phantom and his head were catapulted through the air. Shame upon shame, the ghost crash-landed in a wheelie bin. The wheelie bin lurked beside a restaurant called Busby's finger-licking, pickin', flickin' chicken. So Lord Phantom emerged covered in grease, tomato ketchup, and chocolate milkshake.
The indignity!
He cried. As he was clambering out of the bin, the ghost noticed the construction workers he had spooked earlier in the woods. They were talking to some people in uniforms with security emblazoned on the back of their coats. Words were tumbling out of their mouths at such a rate, it was difficult to make sense of them. However, the ghost caught some of it.
We dug up a ghost!
A headless ghost.
A ghost?
A man from the olden days.
Really olden days?
Which way did he go?
Not sure. I ran away.
I wasn't as scared, so I lightly jogged away.
I wasn't scared at all, so I just walked away.
Liar, liar, pants on fire!
It was slowly dawning on the ghost what had happened.
I must be hundreds of years in the future.
He muttered to himself. The pounding music, the kaleidoscope of lights, the forest of metal confirmed the suspicion.
But now I hold the power. These peasants fear me. Before dawn, I will rid my home of them forever.
Well, it didn't quite work out like that. Let me explain. As the ghost paraded around the park, he was delighted to witness the horror on the visitors' faces. The sight of a medieval nobleman with his head detached was enough to give everyone the willies.
Oh! Help!
No!
Have you ever seen a headless ghost? And I don't mean in this book, Clever Clogs. No? I thought as much. People ran for their lives, rushing like a river through the exits of Dream Park. To add to the fright, the ghost began to do peculiar things with his own head. He hurled it up in the air. He did keepy-uppies with it. He even put it on his neck upside down, which was quite a sight.
Run, peasants! Run!
He cried as a coach trip of elderly people staggered out of the exits. Soon he was all alone in Phantom Manor. It belonged entirely to him again.
An absolute disgrace that my beautiful home has been ruined by all these unsightly fairground novelties.
A little part of him was intrigued, though.
I suppose I should try at least one,
he muttered to himself. So he approached the log flume. As the park was completely empty, there were no queues whatsoever. He sat on the first log and waited as it chugged up the steep slope.
Well, this is tedious in the extreme.
However, after reaching the top, he finally saw where he was heading. Down at terrific speed.
Woo-hoo!
He cried at the thrill. The log hit the pool at the bottom and water splooshed everywhere.
Again!
Cried the ghost. Because the park was deserted, the ghost went straight round again. And again. And again. He ended up doing the log flume 10 times in a row. Next was the pirate ship. This he rode 50 times.
Ahoy!
Next, he and his head rushed to the runaway train.
My turn!
Having died 500 years ago, he had no clue what a train was, let alone a runaway one. However, once again he went round and round and round the track, having the time of his life. Well, time of his death, really, because he was a ghost.
Choo-choo!
He exclaimed, mimicking the noise of the train. When he'd finally had enough, he noticed the hundreds of photographs of him on display in the booth.
How wonderful! I have been painted to perfection,
he said, admiring himself in various expressions of excitement. It was now midnight, and there was so much more of the park to discover. The ghost went on, the teacups, This was one of those spinning rides that spun you round in circles. After being spun 1,000 times, the ghost felt as if he might throw up that cold tomato soup, the last meal he had eaten 500 years before. The silver phantom turned a putrid shade of green.
Oh dear.
The bumper cars! With his hands on the steering wheel and his head in his lap, the ghost could not see where he was going. That just added to the fun. The car whizzed round the track, bumping the other cars high into the air. The ghost train. Surprisingly for a ghost, the ghost train gave Lord Phantom the willies. As soon as it shuddered to a halt, he ran away as fast as he could, cradling his head in his hands.
Witchcraft! Witchcraft!
He screamed.
Begone, spirits! Begone!
Then he had a sudden moment of realization.
I don't mean me be gone. I mean the other spirits, the properly scary ones.
By dawn, the ghost had experienced every single attraction at Dream Park.
I hate to admit it,
he muttered to himself as he sat on a plastic toadstool.
but I do think these additions have livened up this old place no end.
As the morning sun rose in the sky, there was the distant sound of whirring. Lord Phantom looked up to see a helicopter slicing through the air.
What dragon of the skies is this?
He asked himself as he rose to his feet. A helicopter touched down on the lawn of Phantom Manor not far from him, and a short man stepped out.
Good morning,
the man chirped.
Good morrow to you. May I have a ride in your winged beast?
Perhaps later. We need to talk.
Talk away, sir.
I am Buzz Busby.
What kind of a ridiculous name is that?
An American one.
Never heard of the place.
Busby smirked.
I demand to know who you are,
spluttered the ghost.
Well, I am the billionaire owner of Dream Park.
It's called Phantom Manor, and I think you will find I am the owner, and I am 100-aire.
Please calm down, Mr. Phantom.
Lord Phantom, you blackguard, I challenge you to a duel.
Lord Phantom, I'm sorry. But, in fairness, you died 500 years ago. I bought this wreck and turned it into one of the greatest theme parks in the world. But now you come back to life and ruin everything.
It's not my fault your laborers dug me up.
You shouldn't have been buried there.
You may be shocked to discover that when it came to having my head detached from my body, I had no say in the matter.
Won't you just please go back to wherever you came from?
How dare you? I am Lord Phantom, and this is Phantom Manor. This is where I came from. This is my home. No, never. Now buzz off, Mr. Buzzy Buzz Buzz, or whatever your ridiculous name is.
Being a billionaire, Busby was not used to being denied anything. His eyes narrowed, his nostrils flared, his ears waggled.
How dare you?
He thundered.
I do dare! I do!
I dare too!
I double dare you!
I dare you to infinity and no returns!
Suddenly there was a loud noise from the gates of Dream Park. News had spread around the world of this real life, or rather real dead, ghost. Now thousands of people were flocking to the park to see this headless wonder.
Let us in! Let us in!
They cried, rattling the gates.
What do these peasants want?
We want to see the ghost!
They chanted. Buzz Busby's eyes lit up with glee.
I am going to be rich! Well, I'm already rich. Richer than rich! Not just a trillionaire, but a zillionaire!
They want little old me?
Asked the ghost, trying his best to sound humble for the first time in his life, or rather death.
They do! This could be the first theme park in the world to have a ghost! It will be a sensation.
A sensation, you say?
Yes!
Mused the ghost.
Do I have any say in the matter?
If you must.
Replied the hard-nosed businessman.
The question is, your lordship, how would you like to be the most famous ghost in the world?
Now Lord Phantom Silver Eyes lit up with glee.
Well, since you put it like that, open the gates! Let the peasants in!
Within moments, Lord Phantom was swarmed by thousands of people, all eager to meet an actual ghost and have their picture taken with him. In time, Busby renamed Dream Park. He called it Nightmare Park. The ghost of Lord Phantom became the star attraction. People came from all over the world to Nightmare Park to meet him.
Welcome to Nightmare Park, peasants,
he would say as he welcomed them through the gates with a smile. Then the ghost would lie in wait, hiding among the rides. When the carriages trundled past, he would hurl his head up to the air, giving them the fright of their lives. Boo! Children would scream in delight. Thanks to Lord Phantom, Nightmare Park became the most popular theme park in the world. No doubt you will be pleased to learn that as a result, Buzz Busby became a gazillionaire. The only thing people didn't like was the cold tomato soup that Lord Phantom insisted was added to the menu at Nightmare Park's restaurant. That had been renamed too, Lord Phantom's finger-licking, picking, flicking chicken for peasants. Sometimes an unsuspecting child would try the soup.
It's cold,
they would say.
It's called gazpacho!
The Lord would always roar.
It's meant to be cold!
The soup would dribble straight out of his neck onto the table. My mother is a zombie. One night, a terrible storm ravaged the earth. Then, the unthinkable happened. All around the world, the dead rose from their graves, and zombies stalked the earth. Every village, every town, every city, every country was swarming with these monsters. Zombies were easy to spot. How to spot a zombie? Red eyes, pale skin, specks of blood, outstretched arms, jerky movements, unruly hair, dazed expression. No words, just grunts. Filthy clothes, whiff of mouldy spam. I know that sounds a bit like your teenage brother or sister, but no, these were definitely zombies. The zombies had just one desire: to eat the living. Once someone had been bitten by a zombie, they became a zombie too. So the number of zombies grew and grew. If you saw one, you had to run, run, run for your life. One lady was not so lucky. Her name was Maria. She became a zombie. Let me take you back to the time before that. Now, Maria was a single mother and the kindest, most caring parent any child could ever wish for. Her son Bruno was a very lucky boy, as she showered him with the love of not one parent, not two, but 3. Since the zombie apocalypse, the mother and son had been hiding out in a caravan in a forest. Nearby was a tiny rural village named Arcadia that had yet to be swarmed by zombies. Zombies tended to stick to the cities rather than the countryside. There were far more humans to eat in built-up areas. Once a week, Maria and Bruno would cycle into Arcadia to get some supplies. The peculiar thing about the village was that all the villagers were old ladies. Every single one. Whenever the mother and son came into the village, the old ladies kept their distance from the pair, whispered about them behind their backs, and looked at them with a deep, dark suspicion. Often it sounded as if they were speaking another language, one that Bruno could never place. Sometimes the old ladies would all squeeze into the village's mobile library van, which had a strange habit of disappearing and reappearing in the most unlikely places. Strangest of all was that sometimes at night they would stand still all over the village, staring up at the stars. Just as Maria and Bruno were packing up their caravan to move to another village, the inevitable happened. A siren sounded.
Zombies!
Shouted Bruno over the noise.
We have to flee! Now!
So the pair leapt on Maria's bicycle. She pedalled and Bruno sat on the handlebars.
Where are we going?
Asked Bruno.
The village train station. Then we can get as far away from this place as possible.
But where will we go?
I don't know yet. Somewhere where there are no zombies.
Together they raced through Arcadia. Everywhere they looked, there were zombies, and more zombies. Zombies at the post office. Zombies on the bowling green. Zombies at the pub. Zombies in the churchyard. And zombies splashing about in the pond.
Mom! Zombie!
Shouted Bruno. A zombie had stumbled into their path, his arms outstretched to grab them. He growled. The zombie just missed them, but spun round to give chase. Up ahead, zombies crowded the road. Maria had to steer the bike wildly to escape their clutches. Finally, the pair reached the village train station, only to see that the train was already departing.
We're too late!
Shouted the boy.
Hold on tight!
Cried Maria as she pedalled faster and faster. Now travelling at super speed, they had a fighting chance of making it onto that last train out of Arcadia. But disaster struck.
Mom! Look out!
Cried Bruno, but it was too late. The bicycle ran over a discarded walking stick and Bruno flew forward off the handlebars.
Ah!
He tumbled to the ground with a thump.
Bruno! No!
Cried Mother, abandoning her bicycle to pick him up. Cradling the boy in her arms, Maria ran as fast as she could, while the zombies giving chase gained on them. Just like teenagers, zombies aren't great conversationalists.
My boy!
Cried Maria to the folk already on board. Helping hands reached out, and Maria passed her precious child to them. Just as Bruno was safely on the train, Maria ran to the nearest open door, but tripped over a dropped suitcase. She ended up flat on the platform floor.
Mummy!
Cried Bruno.
Behind you!
Looking over Maria's shoulder was the biggest, baddest zombie. The monster grabbed her by the ankle and hoisted her off the ground.
Get off me, you brute!
Just as the zombie's mouth chomped down on her ankle, Maria kicked the monster away. It stumbled backwards, and she scrambled to her feet and then leapt on the train. Bruno wrapped his arms round his mother and held her tighter than ever.
Mummy, I thought I'd lost you.
No, little Bruno. I will be here for you forever.
Bruno looked down at his mother's ankle.
Mom, are you hurt?
He whispered.
No.
She lied, as a tiny pearl of blood trickled down her foot. The zombie had barely scratched her skin with its teeth. However, That was all that was needed to turn Maria into a zombie too. Bruno gulped. He feared the worst, and the worst was round the corner. The transformation happened very slowly for Maria. So slowly that when they were hiding out with the other escapees on a tiny zombie-free island in the middle of the sea, no one guessed that she was one of the undead. That was because she hadn't gone full zombie yet. Her skin was just a little pale. Her eyes only had a hint of red. Her hair had become slightly unruly. She was a trifle wobbly. Every other word was a grunt. Sometimes her arms were stretched out in front of her, and there was just a faint whiff of spam about her. While they were hiding out, they watched the island's one and only television and saw that the armies of the world had joined together to blast the undead into oblivion. Finally, the zombie apocalypse came to an end. All those who were left alive rejoiced. There were no more zombies left in the world. Except one. Bruno realized his mother was a zombie. But how long would he be able to keep her zombiness secret from the world? Zombiness is such a ridiculous word, it isn't even in the Walliams dictionary. The pair returned to their home, the caravan in the forest. Bruno was sure that it was now the safest place for his zombie mother to be. The problem was that there were quite a few telltale signs that she wasn't your average mum. Bruno went to school in the next village. At the school gate, as the last lesson of the day was finishing, if anyone pushed into the line of parents, Maria's zombie brain would see red. She would lift them above her head and hurl them into a bush.
Mum!
If Maria attended Bruno's Saturday morning football club, she would often chase after the ball herself. All the children would be knocked out of the way as she would kick the ball so hard the goalie would end up tangled in the back of the net.
Mum!
Then, at the end of the match, she would squeeze the football between her super strong zombie hands and burst it like a balloon.
Mum!
If Bruno lost a pencil somewhere in the caravan, his zombie mother would lift their home off the ground and shake it until the pencil fell out, along with everything else inside. Plates, books, chairs.
Mum!
The old ladies of Arcadia were now more suspicious of the pair than ever. Bruno would have to tell them fibs like,
Mum's just having a funny turn. Oh no, Mum always used to growl like that. So sorry, Mum's being a tiny bit bitey today.
However, as his mother became more and more like a zombie, Bruno had to take desperate measures to keep her secret safe. The boy would paint his mother's face with makeup in the morning so she didn't appear quite so pale and deathly. Spray her from head to toe with air freshener so she didn't smell so spammy. Put a kazoo in her mouth to turn the growls into musical notes. Place a tray of drinks on her arms so it looked as if they were outstretched for a reason. Squeeze her feet into his old roller skates so she glided along the pavement rather than doing her dead giveaway zombie shuffle. Of course, the sight of a woman in full clown makeup roller skating through the village, carrying a tray of drinks while playing the kazoo and trailing a cloud of scent led to a great deal of gossip. So, one afternoon, all the old ladies of Arcadia gathered in the village hall. Every single one of them had noticed there was something peculiar about Maria.
We need to find out once and for all,
said the mayoress.
whether she is a zombie or not.
Hear, hear!
So, at dusk, the old ladies piled out of the hall and into the mobile library van. They drove at speeds of up to 10 miles an hour until they reached the edge of the forest. Ready for action, these old ladies were armed with whatever deadly weapons they could lay their hands on. Umbrellas, cheese graters, a cake tin lid, used tissues, spoons, a pen on a chain, egg whisks, a tea strainer, pooper scoopers, feather dusters, a bookmark, and a cat. Inside the caravan, Bruno and his mother were happily playing chess. The boy knew it was best to let his zombie mother win. If he didn't, she tended to snap the board in two and eat it. So just as he was making a stupid move, Bruno was distracted by shadows moving outside the caravan.
Mom, I think there is someone out there.
Was her reply. She only said grr these days. It wasn't until he put his face right up to the glass that he saw the faces of the old ladies illuminated by torches. They looked super spooky, much spookier than his own zombie mum.
Ah!
He cried in shock before he gathered himself together.
Mum, stay here!
He ordered. Bruno took a deep breath and opened the door to the caravan.
Good evening,
he said brightly, beaming the biggest smile he could muster. Sadly, the smile was not contagious. The old ladies kept frowning.
We need to speak to your mother,
announced the mayoress.
She's out,
lied Bruno. At that moment, his mother's face loomed behind him. She growled.
Oh!
Cried the old ladies in fright.
Oh, hello, Mother. I didn't see you there. Let's get back to our chess game.
She took a bite out of a bishop.
We have good reason to believe your mother is a zombie,
declared the mayoress.
My mother? A zombie? Ha! Ha ha ha! Whatever would make you think that?
Demanded his mother, which didn't help matters one bit. Then she tore off the door to the caravan and flung it over the old ladies' heads as if it was a frisbee. They ducked and the door hit a tree. It hit the tree so hard that it toppled over.
Well, that seems to clear everything up. I wish you all a pleasant evening,
chirped Bruno. With that, he went to shut the door to the caravan before realising it wasn't there anymore.
Not so fast,
said another impossibly old lady, hobbling out of the mobile library van on her Zimmer frame. There was quite a wait until she'd made it all the way to the caravan.
We will destroy your mother if it's the last thing we do.
With that egg whisk?
Asked Bruno, chuckling. Even his zombie mother found this funny.
It's not just an egg whisk. It's a laser blaster.
She fumbled with a switch on the side of the egg whisk, and a blast of red light shot out. It blew a flaming hole in the side of the caravan.
How come you have a laser blaster? You're an old lady.
But I am not just an old lady. I am really an alien from the planet Earth.
What kind of a planet name is that?
It's better than Earth. So obvious.
With that, she pulled off her mask to reveal a horrifying lizard creature underneath.
Ladies!
Cried the alien. All the old ladies behind her did the same, each revealing a face more horrifying than the last.
Ah!
Screamed Bruno. Agreed his mother, It takes a lot to scare a zombie, but this did the trick.
What are you going to do?
Demanded Bruno of the old lady aliens.
We are here to take control of Earth. But first, we need to destroy the human race. Starting with you two.
Suddenly, all the aliens revealed laser blasters hidden in their weapons. Deadly shafts of red light shot out. The beams hit the caravan, turning it into a ball of flame.
Quick!
Screamed Bruno. He grabbed his mum by the hand. Together they hurled themselves out of their burning home, landing on the forest floor with a thump. Growled the zombie as she hit the ground. Bruno leaned down to help his mother up to her feet. As soon as he had, the pair realized they were surrounded by the terrifying lizard aliens.
Oops.
Prepare to be destroyed,
said the alien with the egg whisk laser blaster. She seemed to be their leader. All at once, red laser beams shot out of all the aliens' weapons. The shafts of light burned the ground around them. Bruno grabbed his mother's hand and pulled her behind a tree. The lizard aliens came closer and closer, their weapons blasting the tree with every step.
We're done for,
whispered Bruno. Growled his zombie mother, shaking her head. She wrapped her super strong arms round the tree and began to yank it out of the ground.
We can floor them with this,
replied his mum, nodding her head. But however hard she tried, the tree wouldn't come.
Let me help,
said Bruno, but he wasn't strong enough to make much of a difference. Still, the blast kept coming.
Say goodbye forever,
taunted the closest alien, just a step away from the tree. Suddenly, Bruno had an idea. A brilliant, awful idea.
Bite me!
Huh?
Bite me! Turn me into a zombie too!
She shook her head.
Bite me! Please, I beg you! It's our only hope!
She shook her head even more.
All right, then I will make you bite me!
He put the tip of his finger inside his zombie mother's mouth, and then, with his other hand, he tickled her under her chin. Chomp went her mouth, biting down on the boy's finger.
Yowie!
The aliens had now surrounded the tree. They looked on in confusion as the boy began to transform in front of their eyes. Bruno's skin turned deathly pale. His eyes shone red, and he began to pong like out-of-date Spam. But the best part was that the boy now had zombie powers just like his mother. He growled. Together, he and his mother yanked the tree out of the ground. They hoisted it above their heads and spun it round. It knocked over all the aliens like skittles. Their weapons flew out of their lizard hands and landed far away. Now it was the turn of the zombies to circle the aliens. They stretched out their arms and stumbled towards them. The mother and son zombies growled together. Without their weapons, the aliens cowered.
To the spacecraft,
said their leader. On her order, the aliens all charged towards the mobile library van and bundled inside. The van glowed bright red and transformed into a spacecraft. Then it blasted off into space. The pair of zombies on Earth looked up at the trail of fire across the night sky. They growled happily. Huge smiles spread across their faces, and they hugged each other tighter than ever. The pair had foiled an actual alien invasion. They had saved the Earth. The only downside was that they were both now zombies. Still, nobody's perfect.